I normally don't like do any cold openings and stuff because I normally just hit the button when people are talking and already
Organic.
enjoying themselves and whatnot. So, that's just kind of how I like to do things. And every now and again I'll throw some throw some music on the stuff. One of my guests gave me some nice little plucky guitar tune to put on here, and I like it.
Hell yeah.
So every now and again I'll throw that on there. And then here in a minute, you'll see me like say, screw you, headphones, after I'm confident that everything sounds at least halfway decent. And whoever's a sound engineer will hear that and be like, he probably should have kept those headphones on.
Nice.
Oh, goodness, I can hear what I'm drinking now. Great.
Oh.
So there goes the headphones. Hey, everybody, this is Thomas, and this is the KAAMP. That is the Knoxville Area Artist Network and Platform podcast thingamajig. The P is fluid. We are here today in the super secret studio space with someone I found on the internet and asked a question out into the ether, as I do. So when you're done taking a swig of that, will you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Skout Smith. I was born and raised in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I'm a tattooer. I was tattooing in Nashville for about 3 years. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Skout Smith. SKOUTSMITH.
The K is an important distinction, I
Very
feel like.
important.
So, let's take a little tour through your history of mediums.
Okay.
If you can give us a breakdown of where you started and then a couple of the things between here and there, that'd be really cool.
So, I grew up as an art kid. My dad is a very prolific artist. He did a lot of graphite portraits. He would always draw our Christmas cards, which I thought was really whimsical. So I grew up watching him make his art, and then as he kind of slowly stopped making art, I inherited all of his fancy pencils and his fancy architect's table. And I really started taking art seriously in high school. I took 2 years of AP art at Knoxville Catholic High School. Go Irish. And during those 2 years, I focused a lot on oil painting. I was doing pastels. And then after high school, I kind of transitioned into mainly colored pencils, which is still probably my favorite medium. Hell yeah. Doing a lot of surrealist portraits. I love wacky faces. Faces are my favorite things to draw.
You said surrealist before I did, but I promise you we were going to get there.
Hell yeah. I figured. I was looking at your art and considering my art, I feel like we jive.
Yeah, for sure. But after the colored pencils?
After the colored pencils, I started working on a portfolio for finding an apprenticeship. So I kind of transitioned into more pen and ink stuff. But a combination of all the mediums that I worked with over the years made up my portfolio that I brought to potential mentors. And I eventually landed a spot in Knoxville at Studio 617 in Maryville. And I was there for about 10 months and moved on to Nashville, where I did another apprenticeship at Safe House Tattoo. Ian White was my mentor there, and he did an awesome job. It was a great place to learn. So yeah, after all that, I transitioned into tattooing, and now I'm here.
So is it more or less fun when the thing you're painting or sketching on winces a little bit?
Ooh, that is probably the biggest mental obstacle when transitioning to tattooing. It's okay, this isn't just a piece of paper. I can't just leave it, walk away, and come back to it tomorrow. I can't rotate it in the ways that I used to. This is a living, breathing organism who feels everything that I'm doing on them. Which honestly, it slowly evolved into being my favorite part of tattooing. Just the fact that it's so intimate, and you need so much empathy and understanding of your client to really give them a good experience. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it kind of became two-way therapy, being able to share such a vulnerable space with my clients, and we would just talk throughout the whole thing if that's what they wanted. But yeah, I've met some really cool people through tattooing, and I'm so grateful.
Well, what everybody can't see right now is the giant smile on your
Oh,
face.
yeah.
So you look also very grateful. So there
That's
you
cool.
go. So where has tattooing taken you since you've really tried to dive into that?
Dude, I have honestly been presented with so many cool opportunities. I've gotten to travel. I did a couple conventions. I went to Chattanooga for Literary Ink, which is like a mainly Harry Potter, but like in general, like literature based tattoo convention. And then I was in Fort Wayne for another convention. That was super cool. Got to meet a lot of cool people. Probably the coolest thing that I've gotten to do that I wouldn't have done without tattooing is tattooing at a music festival in Nashville for 2 years in a row. There was a
Nice.
Yeah, my buddy from Knoxville Catholic High School, Briston Maroney, makes music, and he put on a really awesome festival called Paradise, and I tattooed at last year's and the year before that. And it was like 2 nights the first year and then 3 nights the second year, and it was just so surreal.
Nice.
Like, being in that environment.
I bet.
Yeah,
That's normally not the place you get to set your stuff up.
No, absolutely not. But we did the whole, like, you know, obviously sanitation and safety was our priority. So we had health department come out and check it both years, got a full stamp of approval, and just got to hang out with the coolest people. And everybody was so happy to be there. And the fact that, like, we got to permanently stamp them with that moment was just...
Was
really,
it
really cool.
did you have a sheet of stuff for the event? Okay.
So we had pre-drawn designs that everybody picked from. All the same size, all the stencils were printed when we got there, so people just picked one and was like, I'm getting a tattoo tonight.
Nice. That sounds really fun.
It was so cool.
Also, Briston Maroney gets played on 90.3 a lot.
Hell yeah.
Shout out Benny Smith and 90.3. Benny Smith is the station manager. I've had him sit there into my microphone as well.
Cool.
So yeah, it's the
awesome.
world gets real small sometimes.
Right, I was just about to say.
And then what are some stylistic influences you have just through your body of work, not necessarily tattooing specifically?
Obviously, I have to give my dad credit. I feel like that's where my love of portraiture came from, is seeing, like, how much time he would spend on a face in, like, one section of a cheek or something. So he's a huge influence. Everywhere I go, I feel like I am mostly influenced by the artists that surround me.
Mm-hmm.
So being at Studio 617 and being at Safe House was so inspiring. I had some really, really awesome coworkers around me that gave me incredible, like, it was just a fountain of knowledge. Like, it's impossible not to learn when you're around artists of that caliber.
Oh, for sure.
Same with, because I did a guest spot at Golden Heart last year, and that was another awesome opportunity to be around artists that I'm not usually around.
Also, can you tell the wonderful people that you're going to be at Golden Heart
Yes!
and for how long?
So I'm doing a guest spot at Golden Heart Tattoo. This is my second time tattooing there. I was buddies with Mikey, who owns the shop. And I'm going to be there starting tomorrow. I'm going to go set up and then taking appointments Friday. And kind of indefinitely, I want to see how long Mikey would mind me chilling at that spot. Because I do have a project that I'm working on in Knoxville that's going to take some time. So I would love to be tattooing throughout that period. So yeah, come check it out. Send me an email to book. Let's get tatted.
So for the near term future, you're going to be there.
Yes.
And you're going to be taking work.
Yes. Through February.
At the very least.
Yes.
Excellent. So, other than your dad, who's your influences? If you can name them. If it's not a specific person, then what kind of style did you really try to fold into yours?
In high school, I did my AP Art concentration on like Hellenistic art.
Mm-hmm.
And a huge favorite of mine was Bellini, who did like these crazy marble sculptures. So I would just do like a pastel drawing of the sculptures. Dali, I know that's an obvious one, but I got to go to the Dali Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Nice.
Like as I was leaving college, and as I was leaving college is really where I started making like my surrealist portraiture. Who else? I feel like there's so many people. As far as tattoos go, some of my favorite artists currently, Gregeltron at Shrine Tattoo in Santa Fe. He's been a favorite since I started tattooing. Just super, like, I keep using the word surreal, but, like, how else could you describe it? Very wacky, very psychedelic imagery. These, like, really convoluted back pieces that are just such a testament of, like, his creativity and the client's tenacity,
determination,
like, right?
to sit there and get it done.
It's so sick. Who else? And then, like, Nathan Fight, who tattoos at Safe House. He's kind of like Nashville's Gregeltron, which he would heartily disagree with that, but I'm going to say it. He is a master of, like, Japanese tattooing, and that really kind of made me realize that I love the large-scale tattoos. I love tattoos that tell a story, and I think that Japanese tattooing is really kind of the king of tattooing. Like, it has accomplished so much in so much time, and I think that it's been around for so long for a reason. So, a lot of Japanese tattooers are some favorites. Gregeltron. Everyone at Shrine Tattoo, I should say, is insane. Water Street Phantom is another big favorite. He's kind of like more biomechanical, surreal Japanese. Who else? Oh, Zach Black. I think he's in Michigan. He does a lot of really cool faces with Japanese influence. And then a personal favorite artist, even though like my art doesn't really overlap with hers a lot, is Georgia O'Keeffe.
Yeah.
Her story is really inspiring, and we also both went to the same all-girls boarding school, which... well,
there's your common ground right there.
Yeah.
That's the overlap.
So that's just a cool connection to have, and of course, like, while I was there, I was just obsessed with her art and learning her story and flipping through her collections. But yeah.
But was that as crazy as it sounds? All-girls boarding school?
It was awesome. It was such a good year. The best year of education that I've had by far.
No lie.
Absolutely. No,
Wait, what year in your education was it? Okay.
Freshman year of high school.
So you just, like, head first dove into that.
Yeah. I was like, Mom, can I go to school in the middle of nowhere, Virginia? And she was like, sure, honey. No, it was a lot more involved than that. But I was a horse girl growing up. I don't know if you can smell it on me.
Oh, no, a horse girl. One of those.
Right? Oh, God. But Chatham Hall is the name of the school that I went to. They had a really great riding program. So I went there to ride horses, and they had a great art program as well. So I was like, this sounds like a place that I should try to get into, and it worked out, and I had such a great time.
Was it difficult to get in?
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna assume so. I think because I was a rider, like, it probably helped me out a little bit because they are so invested in their equestrian program. But yeah, that was I can't believe that, like, my 14-year-old self wanted that. I think that's kind of random, but looking back, I'm kind of like, I'm glad that young Scout made that decision for me.
You, like, 14-year-old me wanted to just not be home.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
I agree with a little bit of that.
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
a common theme in my life
Yeah.
that I'm just like, let's leave.
Yeah. I've done a lot of that myself.
Hell yeah.
It's like, you know what? There's somewhere else I want to be. I'm going to go.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful to have parents that support me.
Did they, like, shoo you out the door, or was there any doubt that this was a good idea?
Once I presented it, I think they were excited with the idea that, number one, I'm excited to go to school.
Right.
Regardless.
That's cool. Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh, hell yeah, my kid wants to be educated. Why wouldn't I support that? There was kind of like a weird connotation, like when I would tell people that I'm about to go to an all-girls boarding school, they'd be like, "What'd you do?"
Like you got in trouble.
Yeah.
You got exiled to this place.
Right. So my mom has talked about how like she has had to explain to other parents that it's like, no, like it's her choice. Like she didn't do anything bad. She just wants to go and be in that environment, and it was honestly a really empowering experience. Made me love being a woman, and it made me love learning. Like it was rigorous, but I think it was good for me.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I'll have that same interpretation. That sounds like you probably got in trouble because
Right?
anytime in my lived experience, somebody's like, "Oh yeah, and they went to this and this." And I was just like, oh, God.
Yeah, right?
Like, small recoil. Get my clutching pearls.
Egad, what do they do?
Exactly. But, I've had the same people. I had my mom for a teacher in middle school.
Oh,
so
cool.
I've had the same people be like, was that weird?
Yeah, how was that?
It was kind of weird.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, call my mom by her last name all the time. Like, why?
You can just call her mom?
No, I didn't want to.
That's funny.
You're
like trying to stay incognito.
Well, no, it's not incognito my ass. Ain't no way I was hiding anything in that classroom.
Gotcha.
But no, just to follow the rules, be uniform. I shouldn't have a special treatment just because my mom's a teacher.
There you go. Okay.
Even though she picked on me a lot and used me for example, I guess that only goes one way. I have to follow the rules, but she can bend them a lot more than I can.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever.
As moms do.
Liberties. She also had like almost 30 years of teaching experience under her belt at that time.
Yeah.
So like, she was on it.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I've had that sort of similar reaction. It's funky. Let's see. So, Hieronymus Bosch.
Yeah.
Is that a deal of yours?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's one that I don't know too much. I've only gotten to know him in passing. Well, I do remember one time, I can't remember what the painting is called, but of course it's like this huge, like, menagerie of weird creatures and doing crazy things and in bubbles and shit. But I remember sitting down and, like, zooming in on one of his paintings and just, like, moving around, looking at it for, like, an hour.
There's so much to see.
I know.
And they're huge.
What is that guy?
Some of them.
What was he on? It's crazy.
You know what? Sobriety back then might have been a ride.
That was a drug in itself, honestly. Yeah. You're right.
And not, I feel as if I would have had to do crazy shit like that because daily life back then had to be so monotonous.
So boring.
Yeah. It's like, what do? Well, I've done all the things I need to do for the animals. Right. Guess I'm gonna sit somewhere till the sun goes down. Like,
take me back. Put me in, coach. Let me have that.
I'm tired of these damn cell phones.
Right? That's what I was just thinking. Like, I would love to be bored for months on end without anything to, like, I guess.
Well, that's when you figure out what you really enjoy filling your time with, right there.
Right? No, yeah. Boredom is a gift.
Oh shit! It's a luxury. You know what? I tell people boredom is a luxury sometimes, and they look at me like I'm fucking crazy.
No, you're right.
Because how often is it that you just genuinely have nothing to do and you feel it?
Right.
Because sometimes you can relax and not be bored, but sometimes you're bored.
Yeah.
And you literally have nothing to do, and it kind of sucks because sometimes you're that and can't relax.
Right?
Because there's not something else going on. There's something.
You feel like there's something that you should be doing.
Yes,
so
and
you're
it's terrible.
Preoccupied with, like, what can I do to be productive? Where it's the challenge is just to let yourself sit in it and find something that you want to do instead of what am I obligated to do.
Well, there's a lot of sitting with it in my life because a lot of the things that come across my mind are just terrible. Just absolutely terrible. So I have to let things like marinate for a while before I say some shit out the side of my neck or like draw something really stupid.
Oh, I feel that. Yeah.
But I try to draw stupid shit sometimes. I really do. just to get that shit out of my head.
Right?
Yeah.
And honestly, like, that's a great creative exercise, is just to sit down with, like, a box of crayons or some shit that you wouldn't usually use and just be a kid and, like, draw like a child. Like, scribble, draw whatever your brain or your hand wants to, and see where it goes.
All right, we're here now. We've kind of stumbled on, like, my 5th favorite question.
Nice.
What's a good creative day look like for you?
Ooh. I think...
If it's not like a normal thing, like a routine or something, like, just then what's the last good creative day look like?
I have never been great with routines, which I feel like I should probably train myself into having some sort of structure, but I feel like I operate best just, like, waking up with, like, okay, I gotta figure out, yeah, wherever the wind blows me, let's see what happens. But some days I wake up and I'm like, oh my god, I want to draw, like, what am I gonna draw today? And that's my sign to, like,
sit down and do something,
dedicate my day to creation, because those moments of, like, inspiration are very fleeting, that it's, as an artist, as a creative, it's like almost becomes a priority to, like, follow that gut feeling, because it doesn't come by as often for me as I wish it would.
I think everybody can say that.
I was saying
Because I've never heard anybody be like, Muse, fuck you, go away. Like,
right?
Not once.
Yeah, no, I think everybody is looking for those moments of inspiration. And I think that because of the way that society is, like, we almost don't pay attention to when those moments are presented to us. And then so many ideas are just lost through the drain because we let them slip away.
Mm-hmm. Right, like through your fingertips,
right?
Just literally.
And if that idea isn't brought to life by you, like, it will be brought to life by somebody else. So that's kind of like my drive to put ideas on paper, is like, if I don't do it, somebody else will. And I will always support other artists, but also, like, I know that it's hard to come up with ideas just organically.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get an idea, I, like, really try to claim it.
So does that mean, I like the word claim, so we'll get back to that
Cool.
in a second. Does that mean the notepad in your phone is
Yes.
some kind of crazy?
That is the true artist's, like...
that question has gotten really fun really fast.
Because it's always on you. Like, I would love to be that bitch who carries a tiny little moleskin and a pencil in her pocket all the time. But
I've got my field notes.
right?
Yeah.
But no, my phone is always going to be on me, and it's always something that I can do quickly and in the moment.
Words or scribbles, both?
Words. I am not a fan of drawing on my phone, ironically. The fingertip on, like, this tiny screen.
It's not always the best.
It's tricky. No, all of my ideas are typed out, described. Like, back when I was doing the surreal portraits, like, I can go back and see each one of my portraits written out before that they were done. So it'd be like a face with Band-Aids all over it, or a face with a devil mask on it. And I would go back and look at the notes, and I would know what I was talking about. Like, I could see the same image that I had when I wrote it down.
Yeah.
But I know that if I didn't write it down, like, that image would be gone.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to just put it somewhere and get it later than it is try to think about it later, because every time I've just been like, oh, I don't need to write that down, it's bitten me in the ass.
Yeah, right?
Every time.
And that's where, like, you do get to let your ideas marinate, because then you can come back to it and be like, okay, I was on some bullshit, like, this is not a good idea.
Right.
Or you can be like, ooh, like, I kind of like the way this feels in my brain, like, let's bring it into reality, see what happens. Because a lot of my ideas do end up looking way different than I originally envisioned them, which is just part of the creative process, part of the beauty of, like, tumbling a rock and turning it into sea glass, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So since you said the word claim, I really want to ask, how much of your ideas can you genuinely say 100% are yours versus things that you feel as if the idea was given to you, or you came across it, or you were a conduit for? So is there a ratio there?
I would say that never ever have any of my ideas been 100% original. And I think that, like, when I started tattooing, I felt this insane pressure to be totally original, like, do things that nobody's ever seen. And then I realized that, number one, that pressure was not serving me. Like, it wasn't productive pressure. If anything, it just made me shut down because I couldn't think of anything that had never been done before. And number two, like, a lot of the ideas that already exist are really good, valid ideas that deserve to be explored. And there is, like, I'm thinking about this book called Steal Like an Artist. I can't remember who wrote it, but that was a huge, I guess, like, evolution in my relationship with art.
I can see how, yeah.
Is that, like, you should be open to inspiration from all around you. You shouldn't close yourself off to anything. Like, if you see an artist who's making art that you wish that you could make, like, jealousy, I feel like, is a really easy reflex to have, where you just feel like, oh man, like, I wish I had done that first.
Yeah, but you got to find the lesson in that, like, knee-jerk reaction.
Absolutely.
Because when I get jealous, it's usually something that I wish I could do, or a skill that I don't have being on display, or something like that. And if I feel like I'm jealous, like, maybe I should learn how to do that, right? So I can stop being jealous and like know how to do that.
Pause for self-reflection. How can I use this? Because really the jealousy is inspiration that you're mad at.
Yeah, oh yeah, hell yeah, every time. It's like, oh, look at that, it's so good. Right. Wish I could do that.
Oh, and it's so exactly. Easy to let yourself fall into that habit. But once I kind of switched gears into, like, feeling jealousy towards other people's art to, like, flipping that coin over and being like, absolutely, hell yeah, that artist is seeing something, they're tapped into something that I want to tap into. And instead of, like, feeling like that artist has claimed that entire realm of art, it's like, no, you can walk through it. You can take a path through it and land somewhere else. But you can pick up little treasures along the way. Like, if you like a color scheme that an artist has used, or if you like shapes and, like, a contrast that an artist has used, like, you can pick up little tips and tricks along the way and apply that to your own art, as long as you're not, like, fully duplicating it. Like, you should absolutely, like, hunt and gather for little berries and morsels and feed that to your art family.
Yeah, fold that in. One of my big inspirations lately is, like, the psychedelic 70s paint jobs on hot rods and vans and stuff. Ooh. So I got a milk crate full of magazines from one of my cousins, and it's just all car magazines from the 70s and 80s. Dude. And I've just been, like, sit down, flipping through them. Some of them are in black and white, which kind of sucks, but a lot of them have color images. But even in the black and white, you can see the shape and the form and whatever, you can get the general proportions of it, which is still super handy. But I've been sitting on that for like 9 months, and I finally did something the other day. Yeah? Yeah, and I've just finally ingested enough to where I feel like I'll enjoy the output of that particular influence. And, I mean, we're sitting around in my super secret studio here. Like, you can see some of my artwork, so like, it's vivid, it's patterned loosely, it's psychedelic. Now, let me add a bit more form and shape to it of different varieties that I can complement the wacky colors with. Yeah. And I may even get into some metal flake at some point. But different workflow. But for what I'm trying to push right now, I feel really okay with it.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome.
So I totally agree with the philosophy of, like, picking up what you can, doing the respectful integration of it into your work. Yeah. And figuring out. Yeah. It's like a reverence to reference another artist without, like, completely ripping them off. Well, I mean, how much of a luxury is it that we get to learn these things, whether they're, like, directly taught to us or we can figure them out on our own? Like, that information being there, and it being available for us to consume is super fucking cool because
Dude.
it doesn't have to be there.
Yeah.
Like I've sat down and talked with people that they've told me things I never thought I'd hear out of their mouth. They're like, oh yeah, you know, I just do this and that and whatever, blah blah blah. This happens. I'm just like, whoa. So if that's something you really wanted to know and you sit around and you forget that, then that's disrespectful to both of y'all.
Right?
Yep.
Like, you're doing a disservice to artists before you. And honestly, like, my favorite references to reference are older illustrators. Like, my dad and I were just talking about Frank Frazetta.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
my God.
That whole genre of barbarian,
like 80s
super
book covers.
masculine, crazy stuff is
Give it to me.
wild. Like, even the animals are super ripped.
Yeah. And that man is a master of his art. Like, he put that out into the universe. Not saying like, hey, directly rip this off for years to come, but like,
because it's fucking
take these
cool.
ideas and run with them.
It was radical at the time, and it influenced a whole
should be on
like
a
whole niche of
Right?
magazine
Yeah.
cover.
Oh my
Like
God.
that
Graphic
wasn't
novel.
very well.
all the
It wasn't
things.
very pop culture relevant before that
There's
stuff
like
landed,
four
and then all of a
specific
sudden
Tumblr pages I follow just for that.
And Tumblr is a fountain of amazing resources when looking for vintage and antique or just classic imagery.
there's a lot of it on there. It's not all porn, everybody.
Right?
There's a lot of porn.
Give it a try.
There's a lot of porn, but there's a lot of other things too. Yahoo would want you to believe that there's no porn on Tumblr, but that's simply not
Right?
true.
I mean, you can look for it if you want. We won't judge you, but also look for some cool art because it is there.
Yes, plenty. I think one of my sidebar to a sidebar, Fuck Yeah Vintage Retro, I think is the name of it.
Okay.
And Fuck Yeah Science Fiction. And then there's a couple like art ones that are just like Fuck Yeah and then The Thing.
And they've got
and it's just a blog about that whole part of pop culture.
all the treasures. That's awesome.
Retro vintage sci-fi. Yeah, like there's
Oh,
that
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of things. Yeah, there's a bunch of good ones. If it's like barbarians, cavemen, you know, alt past, alt future, jet age futurism. Let's see, anything that could have been a cover of a Star Trek paperback.
Yes,
like
sir.
all that shit. there are blogs for it, and
That's
they're
awesome.
awesome.
As there should be. Like,
Of course.
those are images and works of art that deserve to be cycled through our everyday media. Like, I love seeing new artists make new things, but there's no denying that everything that is made recently, everything that is considered new, has its roots somewhere in something older. Especially in tattooing. Like, so much of tattooing, especially in traditional aspects like American traditional and Japanese traditional, like, you're recycling a lot of these old compositions and old designs, old ideas that also had their root in like super old magazine ads. Like, a tattooer, like, the old cats would see it in a magazine and be like, that's a tattoo, and they would
And then they
trace
would
it
tattoo
shittily, and now people are using that same composition, that same idea
Yeah.
in modern day tattooing. And I think that's sick because, like I said earlier with Japanese, like, it's timeless for a reason. Like, there's a reason that we're still seeing the same designs.
Mm-hmm.
And they deserve to be maintained. So, yeah.
We got to Japanese tattoos from vintage sci-fi retro stuff. This is a good conversation if I say so myself.
Hell yeah.
I like this one. So back to the original point here, the Good Creative Day, chasing the muse.
Oh, yeah.
So is there a day that when do you catch a muse? Is it predictable ever at all? Can you kind of make it happen? And when you do you get like Zen state about it and like just fall into the thing?
Yeah. I have to say, without a doubt, every moment of inspiration or when I think of feeling inspired, it almost always happens when I'm listening to music. And I think that music plays such an intense role in the things that I decide to bring to life. Like a lot of my, when I was doing those wacky colored pencil portraits, almost all of them were inspired by a specific lyric from a specific song. And that's another thing where you're like referencing another artist without like being too on the nose. Is that instead of trying to distill the image or the composition, you're trying to distill like the feeling that it brings you, and like the color scheme and like the way that it sits in a room, if that makes sense. I think that listening to music intentionally has really evolved my sense for inspiration, because I know the way that it feels. And when I hear certain lyrics or something, like that's when I'll grab my phone and write down like the artist said these lyrics and it brought this image to my head. So that was probably my favorite era of making art, was doing those portraits, because that was before I was doing art as a professional artist and making money off of my passion. And I think that there is a huge distinction in making art for yourself and making art for a client. And sometimes when you bring a paycheck into it, it really does warp the intention of it. So I do kind of like yearn for those days where it was just like genuine art for art's sake, coming out of moments of inspiration, listening to my favorite artists. And that's something that I hope to like bring my clients and stuff, is making art in a state of spontaneity, I guess. Like they can bring me ideas and prompts, and that's always a fun jumping point. And yeah, I really love turning a client's idea into an actual tattoo. Even if it's not like as organic, like it's still like a limit that I can kind of like follow. But music is a huge part of me feeling inspired, and on days where I wake up feeling creative, I feel like the first thing I do is try to apply a soundtrack to whatever the vibes are for that day.
So what's some of your go-to day starting soundtracks?
Let's see. All I'm thinking about is Idols. 'Cause that's all I've been listening to lately. Idols, Joy as an Act of Resistance has been my most played album recently. First of all, the term joy as an act of resistance is so inspiring.
Solid. It's rebellious as hell.
Right? It's so punk. And of course, Joe Talbot spitting like these crazy one-liners throughout the whole thing. I love the feeling that it elicits, just punk and like so angsty. But as far as, I feel like there are different vibes. Like Clairo, her Sling album is something that's like an early morning album that I'll put on when I'm feeling, I guess like grounded, because it's so it's kind of mellow, but it's still like jazzy and has like these really, there are some funk aspects to that album as well. Also Clairo is just an angel. Like her voice is so sweet. And I love female musicians. Like it's just something that I can feel a little bit harder. Who else? Oh, Wet. Wet's most recent album. Is it her most recent? It was her 2021 album. It's Blue. Let me make sure I get the name right. But that's a new one that I've been listening to. Yeah, her name is just Wet, and the album is called Letter Blue. Very vibey.
Letter Blue.
Letter Blue.
Okay.
There's some other ladies I've been listening to. Ooh, Big Thief. Adrian Linker. I have a soft spot for like folk Americana. I guess everybody does, because that's just the vibe that folk brings you. Just warm and cozy. But her lyrics are so profound and insightful. And I just recently bought my first electric guitar. I got a Gretsch Junior Jet, and I'm in love with it. And I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to use it, but it's so fun.
But you're
to
gonna
pretend.
get there.
Yes.
Because you saw somebody play guitar and you got really jealous.
Yes.
And you decided that I'm gonna buy a fucking guitar.
Damn. Yeah, you read me like a book. That's exactly how that happened.
There you go.
And
you learned the lesson out of that emotion.
yeah. And Adrienne Lenker is someone who does kind of like bring that like, oh, I wish I was them. And she actually is putting on, I guess it just recently ended, but she had a songwriting clinic over Zoom. It was like $120, and I was like, should I do it? Even though I've never written a song. I didn't do it, and I am glad that I didn't, because there's no way I could have kept up. But I do have intentions of learning music a lot more in depth, like music theory. I want to learn how to jam, and I want to play with other people and no longer just be like a bystander to music, because music is such a big part of my life, but I've never really like actively participated. So I just want like a piece of that pie, and getting a guitar has really helped me feel like I can participate. So yeah.
I mean, if it doesn't mean you can participate, I don't know what the hell it means.
Right? Even if you don't know what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, you have the guitar.
If you're making noise...
You've got the tools.
Yeah, you're doing it.
So, do you find flow state or Zen stuff when you get into your workflow, practicing on guitar or drawing or painting and whatnot?
Absolutely. Definitely with tattooing. I think it's such a sacred ritual, getting tattooed and tattooing another human. And because, like, you know, like, obviously your client is feeling every bit of it, and you are inflicting that pain, sometimes it does feel like there are hurdles to, like, truly feeling like you're in the flow state and you can, like, make the art as you need to make the art, because you do have to be reserved in the way that, like, you need to be checking up on your client and making sure
there's
that
a person laying there.
Right, absolutely. So, but honestly, that is what makes reaching that flow state throughout the process of a tattoo all the more special, because it requires so much focus between you and the client, and it just is like this symphony of, like, the same intention. Like, we're both getting through this together.
You're both there for the same reason.
Yeah.
It's just opposite sides of the same reason.
Yeah. Which is why getting tattooed as a tattooer is so important. Like, you need to fully understand, like, what they're going through. But yeah, tattooing a client, especially, like, long, full-day sessions are my favorites, because it's almost like a sport at that point. Where you have to be...
I did not expect that. I don't know what I expected, but that's not what I expected.
It's so physically demanding on both of you. But in order to get through, like, the physical aspect of it, like, you need, I hate the phrase mental fortitude, but you need to be in almost a meditative state. Because if you're, like, I can tell when I'm tattooing a client and they're nervous, or they're anxious, or they're, like, uncomfortable. And again, that's where you kind of, like, have to be so mindful of how they're feeling. And just getting through a day, even though somebody is, like, anxious, like, if they're moving a lot, like, it's not something to shame them for. I mean, like, if it's bad, I'll correct a client and I'll say, like, you're doing a great job. Can you work on staying a little bit more still for me? And I don't know, just that, like, collaborative space just makes the finished product so much, or I guess it's just validating to get through it together when both of you are like, we're doing this.
Right. Because you come with the same intention.
Yeah.
Is that a skill you knew you would have to work on going into that?
Oh, like, having to kind of...
Like having to steer that relationship in the moment between you and the client.
I kind of expected it a little bit because, like, as I was getting tattooed throughout my apprenticeship process, like, I was on the other end of that, and I would notice the ways that other artists would correct me because, like, getting tattooed is so intimidating. Like, no matter who you are, you're in somebody else's space. You're like a guest in their home almost. So understanding that throughout every interaction, your client is probably feeling a little out of place. They might feel a little nervous. Because I have been through that same experience, like, I just assume that all my clients are looking for validation and comfort because, like, those are things that I really value in a tattooer. And that's something that my hairstylist talked about. They pointed out that they're only going to get tattoos from people who are kind to them. And it sounds so simple, but I don't think people realize that that is absolutely a standard that you can set for the art that's going to be on your body permanently.
Yeah. You have to spend a little amount of time with this person. Why should it be an abrasive experience?
Yeah, and you're giving them money. Like, you should be proud to pay for their services. Because I think so many people just assume when you walk into a tattoo shop, like, you're at the mercy of the tattooer. But it's like, this should absolutely be a collaborative effort. Because I know plenty of collectors who have, like, every single tattoo on them is amazing, high quality, but they'll look at one certain tattoo and might have had, like, a bad experience with that tattoo.
Their tone changes. They're just like, eh.
Yeah. And it absolutely carries over into, like, how you perceive that tattoo. Like, it's a gorgeous tattoo, but the artist was kind of weird to me. Then it's not a gorgeous tattoo.
Right.
Like, it's hard to look at it as it is because so much of your experience through the tattoo is part of how you perceive it. Like, it's so important to give your client a quality experience to make them feel safe and secure, and to make them feel like they have a say. Like, they're not just sitting on my table and I'm a printer doing a service and then they're paying me and they're leaving. It's a collaboration. So yeah. What was the question? I can't remember how I jumped off.
We started talking about the flow state and and how you have to do that and be mindful of your client at the same time.
Absolutely.
So that was a learned and then honed soft skill in this whole scenario.
Absolutely. Because it's like, when I started tattooing, like, I was nervous. I was a scared little bird. And I think I was so in my head about, like, I don't want my clients to know that I'm nervous. When in reality, like, you can, like, be open and honest about it and have a better experience. Like, there are some tattoos that I've done that I'm like, oh, maybe not my best day. But because I know for a fact that I was, like, kind to my client and that they felt safe, like, I can't shit on myself completely for it.
Because there are other parts of their experience that was stellar because you put effort into that too.
Yeah. Luckily I haven't fucked anybody up too badly.
I love how casually you said that. You must say that a lot.
Well, I mean, like, you know this, like, as a creative, like, we're our own worst critic. Oh my god.
Every fucking day.
Yes. So it's hard to even give yourself a little bit of credit. And the pieces of art or the tattoos that you make that aren't as powerful as you wanted them to be, like, they weigh heavy on your soul when you think about it. But I think that's just the part of humans making human art on human vessels. Like, that's just how it is.
Oh, there's, like, in that statement alone, there's 3 degrees of variation right there that could swing wildly different.
Right.
Like yours, theirs, and the actual thing. Like,
Yeah.
those three are huge variables.
Right.
Sometimes they all line up.
Oh, and when it does, it's a beautiful thing, and it makes it all worth it. And yeah, I have honestly met just the coolest clients. I say as I'm pouring another glass of wine. But yeah, I've made such amazing friends. I've had such amazing opportunities and experiences with people that I never would have met without tattooing. And it's because of the people who trusted me enough to get tattooed. So that's wild to think about, and I am immensely grateful to be in this career. It's crazy.
I haven't heard anybody say that without a warm tone. Like, I've never heard anybody be bitter about having well-received artwork, you know, especially one that moves and talks and does all the things that we do. I think of the few tattooers that I know, and the two other I've had on the podcast, they've all absolutely loved doing what they do for a living because of the art.
Yes.
The client's a close second, but always the art first, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't a lot of other professions or lifestyles, I think, where you could say that, like, so confidently.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Any tattooer, any freelance artist is the luckiest person alive. Like, to be able to have a creative career that it also enables you to have a stable income is such a privilege, such a luxury that can't be taken for granted. So I think that it's imperative to, like, really preserve your relationship to your art because it's so hard to come by. And I recently took a break from tattooing because I felt myself slipping into, like, what if I'm not good enough? What if tattooing isn't for me? And because I know deep down that tattooing is something that will carry me throughout my life, I knew that those thoughts needed to be, like, addressed and nurtured. Like, I think that I needed to give myself the space to explore those without completely, like, quitting tattooing and, like, getting a job somewhere else, like serving a restaurant or something.
Living that straight and narrow.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like, there's no job that I would rather have than tattooing. Maybe like a zookeeper.
Yeah.
Wait, let's talk about that.
Total left field. Total left field. All right.
Let me play with some monkeys and some tigers. That would be so cool. But no, tattooing it takes the cake because I get to make art and it's the coolest thing.
So, off the wall question.
What you got?
If you weren't tattooing but still something artistic, what would it be?
Oh, if I could start my life over again from scratch, I would have begged my parents to force me into piano or guitar lessons or something. I love music so much, and I so wish that I had any sort of musical talent whatsoever. But I also am glad that I invested in getting myself a guitar because I'm kind of like doing my future self a favor because I know that I wish that my past self would have done that. But if I had the skills that I have currently, I would either be working with animals or with horses specifically. Next to music and art, animals are the most important things in my life.
All right. So, was it all horses or was it a specific kind of horse that you were a horse girl for?
It was all horses. I'm such a sucker for really any living creature. But the type of riding that I was doing was called hunter jumper, which is like kind of the snootier side of horseback riding.
No, surely not.
Yeah, no, you're right. Lots of competitions, lots of showing, and towards the end of, like, I haven't ridden horses in probably 5 or 6 years, But the last few horses that I was working with were off the track thoroughbreds, which are like very high strung, very neurotic. If they don't have physical damage, they've got mental damage.
Yeah, they're edgy in a lot of ways.
Yes, but they are so malleable. Like, you can turn them into any kind of horse that you need them to be. And it was so cool to work with the horses that I was working with because they would be like $1,000 horses when we get them, and then we would sell them for quite a bit more. And besides the monetary value, like the validation that you got through like making the horse work better with people was really exciting to me. If I were to go back to horseback riding, I would be a lot more like hippie with it. I would be like doing the bareback riding, like no bridle, like like that kind of holistic horsemanship is something that I feel like I would just eat up. But I never really got the chance to do that. But horses are expensive as hell, dude.
Yes, they are. They're really expensive.
Even the hippie horseback riding, like I would need to really save up to invest in, but I think it'll come back in my life at some point. I'm manifesting it when the time is right.
We're also in East Tennessee.
This is true.
So lots of horses.
There's no shortage of
There's lots of horses.
Horses.
So the odds are in your favor, I think.
I think so too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, animals are great.
As you pet the cat.
That was so sweet.
I'm surprised she's been napping the whole time, is what I'm saying. Normally she's running up and down the hallway, got the zoomies up in somebody's lap. You're getting the rare form right now. Yeah. This is primo cat right now.
Oh my goodness. You had a long day, huh?
Yeah, a long day laying around the damn house.
It's so hard being a kitty.
It's the worst.
You trying to sniff? Or you trying to bite? Oh, she's so pretty.
I fed her I always tell her she got a booger on her face. Because that like brown spot right next to her nose.
Oh, I did notice that.
Yeah, on the other side of her
freckle?
face.
Cutie.
Yeah, she got a booger on her face. I gotta keep it real with her.
Don't get too cocky.
Right, yeah. Her ego's huge. You don't even know. She is a gorgeous cat, but that ego is huge.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
So, music, horses, art.
Love it.
Where in your practice are you pushing boundaries right now, if you are?
I cannot claim any sort of accolades for the past couple of months. I've been thoroughly unemployed. In October, I, some might say impulsively quit my job and moved back home with my parents. There were a lot of aspects of my personal life that needed to be reset. So the past 3 months or so have been solely for letting myself like catch my breath again. But even while I was tattooing, even at like the peak of all the tattoos that I've created, I still feel like I can't claim any sort of like revolutionary supplement that I've given the industry.
Well, no, that's not the spirit of the question. It's more so like, what skills of yours are you trying to sharpen, or skills to gain?
Okay.
Like, what are you working on, like, for your practice?
Gotcha. Cool. I was like, I have not given shit to shit.
The greater good, man.
I am but a wee little creature floating through this universe. For myself,
yeah,
I feel like getting a guitar has been a really cool challenge for myself because it is so different, and it's something that I've always wanted to do.
And you have to use both hands.
Yeah, it is so good for the brain to try to figure out this really complex instrument. So besides the guitar, which has been a project of the past few months, I literally last week bought a baby blue 1992 Chevrolet G30 Lazy Days conversion camper. That was a lot of words.
The van you posted.
The van.
Yes,
Yes.
that thing's gorgeous from all
Thank
that I've seen.
you.
Hell yeah, good snag.
Right, dude.
Yeah.
It felt like divine intervention, divine timing that I saw that thing on Facebook Marketplace and it was affordable, which usually those aren't. Specifically the lazy days. Specifically, I guess you would call them vintage now.
Yeah, they are vintage now.
It looks sick. Like it looks like it could have come from the 70s.
I saw it and I got jealous.
Wow, what a compliment.
Yep.
She is beautiful. I'm thoroughly obsessed with that vehicle.
Does the interior match the exterior?
Yeah.
So it's that same baby blue on the inside?
Well, it's not the quality of it. Like the condition of it is just as pristine on the inside as it is on the outside. It's not baby blue. It's definitely more of like a 90s drab colorway, which I don't mind. I kind of eat that shit up. I'm so sick of like contemporary design with like the corporate office looking interiors. So I knew that I didn't want a newer model. I didn't want anything made in the past 10 years, which honestly some would argue that anything made in the past 10 years is of questionable quality. So I knew I wanted something older that had a few trips on it, and that had that like cozy interior feeling that I feel like I could make into a home, while preserving the original like just groove of the inside. And that is another like huge challenge that I've presented myself with because I have no mechanical or engineering inclinations whatsoever. So it's like,
yeah, you dove in head first again.
It's like, why would you do that, Scout, if you don't know what the fuck you're doing? Because I wanna. And I wanna, this is again, like,
so
I wanna leave.
You paid for this headache, but
Yeah.
you full on volunteered for this one.
And I am so desperate to shake my life up and get out of Tennessee. And this van is exactly what I need. She did completely shit out on the road today.
No!
Yeah, if you saw me on the corner of Westland next to the Presbyterian Church, completely stalled out with the hazards on, mind your business. You didn't see that? Yeah. Don't tell anybody, but yeah, we were stuck on the side of the road for 3.5 hours, something like that. My dad and I, we woke up super early this morning to go to the DMV and get a tag for the van, and we were going to bring it to my dad's mechanic friend and get all the inside scoop about like the condition of it, have a little checkup, and we didn't even get 10 minutes out of the neighborhood until she stalled out and just
Now,
went to sleep.
Were you expecting of any shenanigans or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like, she her name is Dale.
Yes.
Yes.
Run it.
Absolutely. A beautiful lady named Dale.
Yes.
And with any 30-year-old vehicle, no matter how beautiful and pristine they look, like, you're in for some shit. Like, you have to be prepared for something to go wrong. Even if nothing goes wrong, at least you were ready. But count on something going wrong. And boy, did it go wrong. I mean, we were stuck out there for most of today, and we jumped the battery. We put starter fluid in it and everything, and she just would not. She would turn over, but she wouldn't like hold it. It would slip out of power. And we had cops helping us out. Some AAA guy was driving by. He was like, "You need some help," and then he jumped our battery. So it was a great day of like human connection because we got to interact with a few good Samaritans, and then also laugh at people because.
When was the last time you were able to say that?
I love people. I might be grotesquely optimistic about the state of humanity.
Sounds like it, yeah. If you say even that, then yeah, probably.
But no, even shitty, cantankerous humans that I interact with make me smile because I know that it's
They're just big babies.
They're just a child, right?
They're just big babies.
Like, something went wrong and, like, you need to, like, take a time out, and it was okay. But no, it was just a really funny day of trying to direct traffic away from the lane that we were stuck in, and people were just so bewildered by the fact that something is broken down on the road.
And then they're rubbernecking at the actual vehicle once they figure out
Yes.
what's going on. Yeah.
But no, I'm so excited to learn more about mechanics and learn more about, like, maintaining a older vehicle like this, because it's so worth it. Just the vehicle itself, but also the opportunities that having a motorhome presents you, like, to be able to live anywhere, to leave on a whim, to see the world is such a luxury. And I could not have done it without my parents. They, like I said, I've been unemployed for the past few months, burned through my savings that I had built working that festival in Nashville. So I was good for a few months and definitely did not have the money to invest in an RV. But because my parents had just moved houses, they had some money to, like, help me get started on my next adventure. And I fully intend on paying them back and more for what they have, or how they have supported me. It's very similar to how I went to an all-girls boarding school as a 14-year-old. Like, I just brought them this crazy idea, and they saw my excitement. They saw that I'd been doing research, and they were like, okay, like, we will help you do this. And, like, I just feel so lucky, so privileged to be able to say that. Because I know that so many people would want to just buy a motorhome, an RV like that, but don't have the same platforms that I do to be able to accomplish that. So I am really trying to, like, grab it by the horns and take advantage of the opportunity that my parents have given me. So yeah, I am super excited to keep on trucking, literally, and have my guitar on the road and be tattooing as I'm traveling around. Life is crazy. I can't believe that that's a possibility for me.
Well, you're smack dab in the middle of it right now.
Yeah. Like, getting ready to embark on this crazy journey.
I foresee lots of greasy elbows in your future.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that I have the capacity to, like, do the shit that I need to do and make sure that I'm safe and that the vehicle is well taken care of. But no, I'm just excited to keep investing in these new skills that I've decided to take on. Even if I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, you'll tread water and then it'll make sense.
Yeah, we're flailing, but we're doing it gracefully.
Flailing gracefully. All right, well, Scout, I think this is a good spot to end the episode.
Very cool.
If you would remind the folks of your social media outlets before we split, that would be cool.
Yes, sir. My name is Skout Smith. Thank you so much for having me on.
You are most welcome.
I was so flattered to see your DM.
That's the first time I've ever heard that.
Really?
I was flattered to see your
Oh
DM.
my god, I was so stoked. No, like, even if this wasn't being recorded, like, I really cherish getting to have conversations with people, especially people who are creative themselves, and, like, the fact that you've fostered a community of creatives within Knoxville, I think, is so valuable.
I'm working on it. Always working on it.
Like, you can keep on growing, and I think that that's something that you should be really proud of. But yeah, so my name is Skout Smith, and I'll be tattooing at Golden Heart Tattoo Company in Seymour, Tennessee for the future a little bit. And you can find me on Instagram at Skout Smith, SKOUTSMITH. And you can send me an email if you want to get tattooed, or just say hey, whatever you want. But yeah.
You good? That's it?
I think that's it.
All right,
Did
cool.
I say everything?
All right, listen, everybody. It was one of those scenarios where I saw this person on the internet and they happened to be doing Knoxville things. So I said, oh, shit. got to send this person one of those nice personalized DMs. And I did, and she said yes, and here we are. So this is another successful adventure to have an intentional conversation by asking questions into the ether. So thank you, Internet. Thank you for being cool. Thanks for microphones existing, and thank you all for listening. I really do greatly appreciate it. This has been the latest episode of the KAAMP. This is Thomas. Y'all do the things. Share, like, rate, whatever. Y'all know. I don't have to explain it to you. Just the one thing I would really like for you to do is when you get somebody in your car that's never heard this before, just turn it on.
Put that shit on.
Don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. Just turn it on and wait till they look at you sideways and then tell them. Then tell them this is a KAAMP. We're listening to creative people talk about being creative people. And I would be just ever so appreciative of that. So thank you. And I guess you'll hear me next time.